when it comes to the pass rushing situation, it's so hard to really go out and get a guy. I think really at any spot, the NFL is just so much different. The NFL free agency in this league, you don't want to let good players go. You really don't. You hold on to those guys as long as humanly possible. And then when you do, like, you make a move and you really hope it works out. And sometimes you have to pay that guy. You have to fork over the cash. And when I look back at the Roquan Smith deal where he gets drafted by the Bears, he's a pretty good player. And Baltimore's like, him. Even though they had Patrick Queen out of LSU, they were like, no, that's the guy we want to build around. They trade for him, they pay him, and then boom, he's one of the best players in football. Maxx Crosby, in my opinion, is worth it. If you are going to spend the draft capital, if you are going to pony up the dollars to get a pass rusher, I know ideally you would love to draft and develop the guy. But unfortunately, that is not what we've seen from this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team and this organization as a whole. He's got a cap hit of $27 million next year, 27.9. He's got a potential out, though, this year, which they'd have to eat, $10 million in dead cap. He's an unrestricted free agent after 2027. The one thing I love about Maxx Crosby is this is a guy that it doesn't matter who they're playing. It doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter what the situation is for his team. He is going to give it 100% every single time. And I'm a guy that I've played fantasy football with independent defensive players the last couple of years. So as much as a regular fantasy football is like you have your quarterback and you have your running back and your wide receiver and all that stuff, we do, instead of just drafting a team on defense, we have players, and I drafted Maxx Crosby this year. I had Crosby and Myles Garrett. Not bad on the outside, huh? So I watched a lot of the games this year, and I kept a close eye on his statistics. And any single time you put a Raiders game on, it usually wasn't good this year. Obviously, they know that they need to improve in so many different ways, and Tom Brady is going to do whatever he can to help that out. But I think when I'm watching these games, Maxx Crosby he was balling. He was balling. He is not a guy that's out of the play when he's not sacking the quarterback. He's a guy that helps in the run. He's a guy that's always making plays. He's a guy that's there for his team. I would have no issues with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finding a way to get Maxx Crosby in a Buccaneer uniform for the 2025 season and beyond. You need a game wrecker. You need a game changer. You need somebody that you're going to line up on the opposite side of Yaya Diaby, and those two guys can go to work. Of course, you need depth in those spots. I do believe that you need to continue to draft at that position. Keep drafting keep drafting defensive linemen. Keep drafting outside linebackers. Throw numbers at the situation like we see with a team like we see with teams like the Chiefs, like we see with teams like the Eagles. Those two teams throwing numbers at the issues. Get guys that are just going to rotate in there. I like that. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I have faith that if it's possible, Jason Licht and his crew, whoever stays, could figure it out. But I would love that. I think they need to make a splash like that on the defensive side of the ball. Whether it's through the draft, whether it's through free agency, well, I don't think it could be through the draft. I think you have to make this splash through free agency or a trade. And usually through trade, because if there's a player that's that good, it is going to be so difficult to have a team let him go to free agency. So sometimes you got to trade for him. And when you have a team like Oakland, when you have a team like the Las Vegas Raiders that is really trying to establish an identity of their own, they're looking for a quarterback. Like, how many players do they really have that are going to be part of their future? They know that the rebuild is going to be a long, arduous process because there is a lot of pieces missing over there. And look at their division. You're playing in the Chiefs. You're playing in the same division as the Chiefs. You're playing in the same division as the Chargers and the Broncos. 3 playoff teams this year. It's not going to be easy. And it's going to be a little while before they can compete. So if I'm the Raiders, I'm looking to move on from Maxx Crosby. Well, maybe I'm not, because you need a guy like that, right? You don't want to let go of him, but he's 27. Like, how is his timeline going to match up with your timeline if you're trying to be a successful, competitive franchise? So I'll say it here and I'll say it again. I think Maxx Crosby would be a perfect fit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because he's not only a guy that can sack the quarterback, but he can defend the run. He's just an all-around outstanding football player. The effort that he has given the Raiders the last couple of years, especially when they're not even competitive in some of these games, it's just exemplary. It's such a great teaching tool for young football players everywhere. It doesn't matter what the score is. Give it 100% every single time out there. That's what you see from Maxx Crosby. I think he has the ability to transform this Buccaneers defense, take some of the load off of a guy like Yaya Diaby, give some time for Chris Braswell to develop. I do believe you still throw numbers at that position in the draft. You still got to get linebackers. You still got to get D linemen. But if there's a front office that can make this work, to make that salary work here in Tampa Bay, it's Jason Licht and crew. Maxx Crosby would be a huge, huge move to let everybody know that the Buccaneers are serious. I don't know if they're going to be able to make that move in the draft. I think you only make it in free agency or via trade. And there's this crown jewel right there in Sin City that is just withering away on one of the worst teams in all of football, and I don't think it's going to get any better there. They play in one of the most difficult divisions in all of football with 3 other playoff teams. Jason, go get Maxx Crosby. That would be one of the biggest moves of the offseason, and I think that would instantly change this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. And I know it's tough because we look at some of these moves, and you're always playing fantasy football. You're always playing, put your general manager hat on. I get that. But it's fun. And that is a need. That is a need for this team. David Velasquez, I agree 100%. But also, what if it's a corner, and who would you trade for? No, I'm not trading any corners. I'm not trading any. This is the NFL. You don't have to give up, baseball level trades or basketball level trades or hockey level trades where you have to give up 3 players and 6 draft picks. It's just not the way it goes. They want that money off their books. Do you trade him a guy where, maybe you trade him a Braswell? I don't know if they would. I don't know if they would do that. Do you trade him a Sean Tucker in a 3rd round pick? I wouldn't hate that. You got to be smart in situations like this, and you can't be scared away. And I know our guy Shane saying getting somebody like Crosby, a game changer, 4 years, $94 million. I know it's scary. It is scary, but that's what you got to do, guys. You got to pay guys like this. It's a premium. I don't know if I would give, and I know Louis saying I would give up our 19th overall pick. I wouldn't give up a 1st round pick, Louis. I wouldn't give up a 1st round pick. Because you can still get a player that can contribute in a big way, like we saw with Graham Barton, like you saw with Kalijah Cansey. My whole thing is that if you trade for a guy like Maxx Crosby, and I don't think it'll be Rachaad White, but let's say you trade a 3rd and Tucker, or maybe Rachaad White for Maxx Crosby, right? Knowing that you're still going to have to pay the guy. I think you help your draft process because you eliminate some of the positions that you need to go out and get. So at 19, and we've had this discussion with Scott Reynolds, we have this discussion with Greg Allman, a bunch of people. What position do you think the Buccaneers would draft at 19? And it really comes down to 3. It comes down to edge rusher, corner, or linebacker. And I think if you get a guy on, I know if you go out and get a Maxx Crosby, You can still draft a pass rusher, but you're not going to do it with your first round pick. I think it just makes it easier for you. I like it because it limits it down to 2 position groups instead of just 1. If you go from 2 to 1 and then your guy's not there, and let's say you're picking like the 4th best corner, yeah, you're screwed. Then it'd be better maybe to trade back. But you still have 2 big position groups of need, even if you bring him in to fortify the outside pass rush. You go get corner. You go get a corner, you add him into the group, right? With Zion, with Jamel Dean. I think that makes a lot of sense. You look at what the Eagles did, drafting a couple of rookie corners and the impact that they've had. Go get another corner with 19. No issue with that. Whether Levante David comes back or not, you need interior linebackers. Go get somebody. I don't care who it is. You want a guy, maybe you get somebody out of Georgia, like Jalen Walker. I'm not going to oppose anybody taking a Georgia and Alabama player in the first 2 rounds of the draft. And it looks like Jalen Walker, his spots, could be falling a little bit. Some people like it. Some people don't like him. But I think you look at Jalen Walker. Obviously, Todd Bowles knows that Georgia defense. If you tell me that the Buccaneers are going to trade for Maxx Crosby and with their 19th pick draft Jalen Walker, that's a great start. That's a great start to changing this Buccaneers defense.